the Fed, and the Fed, and the Fed, and the Fed. We've got several people here who want to speak.
I'm Sam. I'm from We Are Change Branson. We're another group, another entity in the fight for freedom. Now, these guys, we're done with them. We're not going to take the money laundering operations anymore. Yeah. We're tired of that. We're not going to take no government oversight. This is a private corporation here. They have no government oversight. There's nothing. I mean, these guys just do what they want, and our government just basically bends over and takes it and listens to them. You know, everyone's so upset about trying to vote. You know, getting everyone out to vote for our representatives. Hey, these people coin our currency. They control the whole financial system. Did you get to vote for them?
No!
No, you didn't. I'm tired of it all. I'm out here today because I care about what's going on. I care about the country I'm living in. I don't want to live in a third world nation. I don't want to live in a police state.
George Soros sucks! George Soros sucks! There's some people here who understand exactly what's happening. You know, we had $600 billion of quantitative easing that was announced the day after Election Day. How about that for a spit in the face of the electorate? They go and they find people who are fiscally responsible, and the Federal Reserve that very day comes up with a formulated plan to put it to every single taxpayer in this country and doom them to massive, rapid hyperinflation. Isn't that great? We don't vote for these guys. We don't vote for the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve banking system is completely self-contained, and it completely runs itself. And on the current Federal Open Market Committee, 7 of the 10 members directly are puppets of Ben Bernanke. So it doesn't really matter if people disagree. We understand that the individual who works in this building, Tom Honig, is against most of what Ben Bernanke's trying to do. And you know how much his opinion means? Nothing! It means absolutely nothing, because he has no power to stop Ben Bernanke. It's us that have the power. It's the people of this country. 3% of the people in this country started the Revolutionary War. Less than 3%. We can make a difference, people. I mean, I have a quote on my emails I send out. So the determined minority is all that matters. You know, it does not take a majority to prevail. Just a small, energetic, principled minority that's keen to start the brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. Samuel Adams said that, and I completely agree, and I completely subscribe to that philosophy. And what we got to do is we got to wake people up. We understand there's a Chiefs game today. Well, darn it, I'm sorry that the country's more important than a football game. You know, some people don't think that way, but I believe that. Have you seen what's been happening with the bond market the last 2 weeks?
Yep.
Have you seen it? What's going on with the bond market?
Well, bonds are nobody's buying.
Bond market yields are beginning to skyrocket.
Because nobody's buying them.
And no, all of them. Long-term, mid-term, short-term, all of them. All the way from 30-day notes up to 30-year notes. All of the bond market, rates are going up. And the reason why is because nobody wants to buy the United States debt anymore.
Right.
They don't want to buy our money.
That's why gold.
The rest of the world's passed their verdict, and it's guilty. We are guilty of destroying the value of our currency. We are guilty of sentencing our children and our grandchildren to debt that they can never possibly repay. The problem is, we're trying to pay off our debts. We're trying to get ourselves right in our households. It's the Federal Reserve that's destroying our credit rating. It's destroying our dollar.
Too technical here, but you all know that the monetary base went from about 0.8 trillion back in 2008 to 2.2 trillion today, almost triple. And last week they voted 10-1 to add another 600 billion.
Up to $1 trillion.
And maybe more, which will push it very close to $3 trillion. Now the vote was 10-1, and the no vote came from here. But what difference did that make? Still passed, right? But it's nice to know the no vote came from here, all right? Right now, the only reason we're not having runaway price inflation is nobody wants to borrow that money, and all that money is sitting in free reserves in the bank, and they can't figure out who to lend it to because no one wants to borrow it. Throw 600 more billion into the pot, more free reserves, still no one wants to borrow. So it's pushing on a rope. You cannot do it anymore until the people get confident again. And what's stopping it from being confident? Well, what are the taxes going to be next year? What's the dollar going to be worth next year? Are we going to fight a war next year? All of these things affect a businessman's plan to invest. And there's so much uncertainty, they're just running for the hills and keeping their money in their mattress. It's not getting the hills, yeah, right, wherever they can find to store it. So we need to end the Fed, and we need to have a plan to replace its function.
Get yourself the knowledge that you need to combat the people who are going to say, well, isn't it just fine having deficits? Deficits are wonderful. There's no problem with the deficit. And you find out very quickly that deficits lead to destruction, and usually it's the destruction of your currency.
And the propaganda I've been hearing the last 2 weeks surrounding this quantitative lubing is something else. These are the things they're using as propaganda to try to pull this off today. They're saying that, you know, a little intervention is required, but then again, don't intervene in what the Federal Reserve's doing, because that would be too much intervention. It's like saying on the one hand, we're going to stick our hand in the pot, but don't stick your hand in our pot. Really, when it comes down to it, they're all liars and crooks. They say that the critics ignore the lessons of the Great Depression and the unemployment of the 1930s. Yep. I say those who refuse to examine what inflation can do to a country ignores Germany of the 1930s.
Yep, you're right.
You know, I guess that's the one thing I want to ask you guys today is not only combat the propaganda, not only combat the false economics, but to just reach out to somebody you would never consider interested in these subjects, somebody you would never speak with about your politics, and just ask them, you know, in the long run, will you exercise your rights?
Yep.
Will you stand with us? And if you won't, why won't you? What kind of a future do you want to see for your children?
Yeah.
What kind of future do you want to see for the dollar bill? What kind of future do you want to see for the United States Constitution and the United States Congress?
The United States of America.
And the United States of America.
Well, an individual by the name of Benjamin Franklin once said that those who are willing to sacrifice essential liberty to provide a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
Yeah.
And make no mistake, they're trying to say that creating $2 trillion potentially out of thin air is going to make us safe with our currency. That we ourselves don't know enough how economics works, and so the brain trust, the expert class that resides in New York City and Washington, D.C., and yes, even here in Kansas City, know more about how to handle the nation's economic situation than we do. As I said, the people in this country have been spending the last year trying to get their finances in order. The total debt load of an individual in this country has gone down by approximately 15% in the last 18 months. We're starting to turn the tide. We're starting to get ourselves out of debt. And people like the criminals of the Federal Reserve are deciding that we don't know what we're doing, so they should do it for us. They should continue to put us into deeper and deeper debt. Debt that my 4 children are going to have to pay. Debt that children and grandchildren that you haven't even fathered or parented are going to have to foot the bill for the criminal actions of this cabal that is unelected and unaccountable. I don't know about you, but I say enough is enough. It is time to end the Fed! End the Fed! End the Fed!
Let's all say goodbye to the Federal Reserve.